Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to my deep guide and another edition of Q&A. Let's go. Cheers! We use our Kindle a lot to read children's picture books to the kids. Like comic books, picture books lose a lot of their appeal when reading on a monochromatic display. We're able to borrow the ebooks from our local library using the Libby app and then read them on the Kindle with very little work. That is the biggest draw for me to the Kindle platform currently. That's absolutely a valid reason. So yeah, it's very simple, it's very convenient. That you can just simply, rent a book, use it that way and things like that. I just wish that it was more prevalent that we are maybe still using genuine physical picture books and storybooks especially for kids, because there's something about the physical act of flipping a page where you've read the content and you've absorbed the content, image or whatever it is, and then you move past it and then you've moved also forward. When you just flip a screen and the thing just dissolves, even if it has like a flip page animation, this is not the same thing. You are still looking at the same page, so to speak. Yeah, I absolutely understand that it's much more convenient, and especially for people with busy schedules and things like that, it's an unbelievable time saver. And if you're having a choice whether doing it at all or not, then absolutely, yeah, it's much better. It's just my own personal kind of reminiscing, maybe, that I think that there is quite a bit of value that we are overlooking, especially with kids, with that physical aspect of content being on a page, absorbing that content, having an experience, emotional, intellectual experience, moving a page, flipping a page together, or allowing the child themselves to flip that page and open up this whole new thing that's a complete unknown to them. Maybe it's just me, probably it is, but it's just this comment evoked these feelings and thoughts in me, and I just wanted to kind of share that because maybe it spurs some thoughts and some feelings in some other people as well. And I'm genuinely actually interested to hear from you guys as well what your thoughts are on this kind of thing, because yeah, we've never talked about that before. The outdated software on e-ink needs to stop. AI can attack these vulnerable devices, no problem. That's got to stop. Okay, can you name me an example, at least one, just one major security breach that any of the e-paper or e-ink devices have suffered through in the past, I don't know, six years? Any. I am not aware that there has been any major security breaches, major security risks, or anything like that at all. I am absolutely aware of people being completely convinced, beyond reasonable doubt, that this is a certainty, not an eventuality. Okay, why hasn't it happened yet? If it's like so certain, why hasn't it happened yet? Well, there are several reasons. Obvious one is like, well, it's a niche kind of thing. There's very few people. It's like great that you and I are interacting and interested in that. But this is a niche type of a kind of interest point. It's starting to gain some traction, but it's absolutely nothing on the smartphones and things like that. So I'm not really convinced as you are that this is something that's going to actually help. Because have you read about what Google's plans are for new Androids and everything else? The integration of Gemini and how they plan to integrate all of that, what the plan is for Microsoft as well and pretty much everyone else. Do you truly believe that system level integration of a technology that is so unfinished and so fundamentally broken as LLMs are, because let's not beat around the bush, that technology is nowhere near production ready for use. However, people are pouring trillions into it because nobody seems to care yet. They will soon. This kind of bubble that's happening right now, and it's going to be inflated into an operating system. Do you truly believe that that is going to offer a better level of system protection and stability than something that doesn't have it crawling around constantly? I'm not convinced about that. Regarding the Manta's aging processor, I hadn't noticed until it was pointed out that the page turns in notebooks are a little slower than some devices. I find the Manta smooth because of accumulation of several effects. It doesn't flicker between transitions as much as other devices. Ghosting control is the best I've seen. Navigation is so seamless, UI is seamless, writing is so responsive. Because everything in a device is so deliberate, I find myself maneuvering in the same way. There's something about not rushing that makes things feel smooth. Yes, that is actually really a good several points where the speed itself doesn't really matter that much when the whole package and the whole experience of a device where the system design is smooth. It doesn't mean that the performance is going to be the critical point. It's actually the points of friction between you and the device. And Supernote has that done really well. So you have minimized points of friction all across the board. And when you do encounter slightly slower refresh rates, which are objectively there, it doesn't seem to be such a big deal. And here's another point. Boox devices are traditionally, especially when you flip them to fast refresh mode, it's much more faster refresh speed of page flipping. But the overall experience is completely befuddled and riddled with points of friction. So much so that whenever I go from my beloved mode Max, which is here, always working with it, so it's definitely my device of choice for many reasons. But that's in spite of it having all of those points of friction. So when I move from that to Manta, it's a breath of fresh air. How effortless and how smooth everything is just to kind of move along. And again I say, like, if Supernote would only release a 13.3-inch device, oh, that would be so nice, because I'm so used to the 13.3-inch now that I can't really go back. But yeah, that would be nice. But yeah, really good points that you raised there. Thank you. Maybe I'm missing something, but what's the link between profit and not allowing for that restore point? There's no profit in software updates. Or is the point companies are not motivated to do the right thing because it's not profitable? Because I would like to disagree with that. I think it's very profitable in the long run. What I think you're referring to is that it makes a lot of sense and it's a common sense kind of thing in the long run. But the profitable thing I was more referring to, and it was not well articulated by me, so my apologies for that. But what I meant was that it costs more money, the company, to actually keep backwards compatibility, because you have to offer support for that as well. Now, in the case of Boox, saying you have to offer support is kind of a, imaginary term on its own, because Boox's software support or customer support is not really that great. But in theory, they would at least need to have a part of a department, or the same department would then be stretched, that they have a support system for previous versions, how far back they are actually going. And that's a challenge. That's a big challenge, and that's a strain on the resources of the company itself, and therefore indirectly it affects the profit itself, because it increases the cost of maintenance and support for past versions. So that's what I meant. There is a third point about EMR versus active pens. A passive stylus is simply more consistent with the philosophy of e-ink devices. Example, simplicity, calmness, worrylessness, etc. I don't know about calmness and stuff, but for me, the worrylessness with the battery thing, that's a very real issue, because in the past month or so, I've been using and testing out the Boox Go 10.3 Gen 2 Lumi and non-Lumi versions. And yes, it's a very real thing. I've started to notice because the device is not charging the pen like it is on a Remarkable, for example. Here it doesn't, and you are the one who has to be conscious of, hey, I have to check my pen's battery level to see if it runs out. And I have already experienced a point where I was writing and things like that, and the light turns red on the pen, and that ruins the experience for me. Just knowing that that's a new reality and that's what you have to contend with, it sucks. It really sucks. I mean, compared to something like this, which is, for all intents and purposes, even though there's technology inside it, I know, but the way that I use it and the way that it fits into my brain while using it is, it's just a pen. I just pick it up and it works. With an active pen, you lose that. It's no longer just a pen. Oh, is it charged? Oh, it's a device that I'm interacting with. That's sort of like a pen, but it's primarily its own separate kind of thing. And yeah, I don't like that. Regarding iFlyTek AINote 2, comparing with Boox Go 10.3 for note-taking, which is better? Boox has AI Transcript 2. They are quite close in most of the things, but if I remember correctly, I think that AINote 2 has better writing latency, and I did prefer the surface, the writing surface of the AINote 2. I did prefer it over the OG Go 10.3, which has a little bit of a harder, kind of thicker surface. That's something that I never really liked about that device. And also the writing latency is in the 40s, which is something that you absolutely notice. So from those aspects, which are granted some of the primary aspects as a device for a writing device, I think the AINote 2 has the advantage. As for the capabilities, they are very, very similar, and I've tested that, as you can see. I think that the integration of the transcript is a little bit smoother and more intuitive simply because of the user experience system overall on the AINote 2 is better than Boox. Boox is all over the place, but Boox does technically have that same type of functionality as well. It's just that the ease of use, how to get to it and using it actually in reality has more points of friction than the AINote 2. The counterpoint is that on iFlyTek you need a dedicated account and maybe even a subscription because you're going to hit limitations of transcripts and things like that. And that's a whole other can of worms that you have to take into consideration, and it depends on how much you want to use, what you want to use, how often, etc., etc. A great review, thank you. One thing not mentioned is iFlyTek's reputation for data collection and its internationally famous prosecutions for spying and data breach. Should we be concerned? Well, I don't know if you should be concerned, but you sound that you are already concerned, so I think you're there. As for reputation for data collection and spying and things like that, yes, there was an incident back in 2018, 2019, with the US also blacklisting iFlyTek, not directly, but something like that. So they were kind of, me kind of thing. And that's why I'm reluctant of the company itself. However, that was many, many years ago, and I personally don't know what steps have been done since then. I don't know if iFlyTek has been removed from, de-blacklisted. Are there any more recent concerns or evidence that would point for reason for concern? As for data collection, I think that's an absurd type of a thing to say because every single device that requires you to hook up online and do something is trading your data. Every service, everything. And singling out iFlyTek is completely ridiculous because it somehow minimizes like what everyone else is doing, and I think that's doing a disservice to people. This is not to defend iFlyTek at all. This is simply to elevate everyone else on the same level of responsibility and level of potential concern as iFlyTek, as far as data collection and trading at least is concerned. Enjoyed the review, thank you. Any plans to provide an update after having used it for a while, as I've read that the pen cap can be twisted to secure it, and apparently there are markings either on the pen case or both, which allows securing it without impacting the buttons. Just a thought, it would be greatly appreciated if you could even text a response to me to confirm the aforementioned is in fact true. Thank you kindly. As for the twisting the cap, yes, that has been an option from the start, and it is a viable workaround. However, that's not a designed feature, and I see quite a lot of people going like, oh, you're just twisted and that's it. Well, yes, but that's not the point. The design is broken and it doesn't work. Is this an effective workaround? For a certain amount of time, yes, it will be. You will be able to twist it and it won't come off, but it won't align, so it's not going to look nice. And more importantly, there's going to be material fatigue because it's plastic on plastic. So each time you twist it and turn it, twist it and turn it, twist it and turn it, well, it's going to wear out. And the twisting will eventually no longer work simply because it's not a designed solution for something like this. The second point regarding the positioning and the placement, Boox has completely silently updated later versions of the Note Air 5C to actually have correct magnet placements, and now the stronger magnets are in the correct place where they are, so that when you put the pen, it's no longer a question where the correct magnets are. So the correct one is the lower one, which doesn't interfere with the button. So if you buy a new device now, you will have that stuff sorted out, and you won't have to look for marking or anything like that, simply because the magnets will tell you where the correct placement is, and it will hold the pen better than the first run of devices has, as I shown on that video. So that's a good thing, but you know, I've talked about this before. I think that's a really crappy move on Boox's behalf to do something like that completely silently, while at the same time trying to gaslight everyone, myself included, repeatedly, that no, you're crazy, that's not the correct placement. The correct placement is down here, while the device itself is not able to actually hold the pen and it's holding it in a different place. So it's a complete design cock-up, but thankfully it affects only the early generation of the Note Air 5C devices. But I'm not still aware that Boox issued a recall for the original owners of those devices who paid the full price. They bought the device and they are living with those limitations, while if you buy that device for the same amount of money, you're effectively going to have a better device, a more resolved device. Yet that has not been resolved for the original owners. That, in my book, sucks. Personally didn't like the metal pen grinding against metal on the side. This is in regards to Boox Go 10.3 Gen 2. It's leaving some permanent marks, which if it was plastic, for this reason. Latency definitely felt off compared to EMR, and the contrast was lacking when compared to Scribe 2025 with front light on, for the example. Expected better ghosting performance too. Wonder why Carta 1200 in 2026. Those were my only gripes for an otherwise superb device. Great video as always. Metal against metal, sure, that's definitely going to do some marking because physics. The writing latency actually is faster on both Go 10.3 Gen 2 non-front lit and the Lumi version than on the original Go 10.3. So it really depends what you're comparing against. There are devices that use EMR technology that are slower, like Go 10.3 Gen 1, which is like 40 something milliseconds. And then you also have, you know, Note Max, which is also EMR, but it's down to 15, 14 milliseconds or something like that. So it really varies a lot. And you also have active pens. For example, let's stay in the Boox family. Boox Tab XC has an active pen and writing latency of 7.5 milliseconds, which is blisteringly fast. But you also have, you know, some other ones like Go 7, for example, which is unbelievably slow and terrible. So the technology itself is not a differentiator or a thing that will mandate how quick or slow writing latency is on a device. So torn between this and the Supernote, and this is also in regards to the Boox Go 10.3 Gen 2. This is not such a radically different device from Gen 1, so I'm not entirely sure why would this pose like a new type of dilemma, because we've had like a Go 10.3 Gen 1 for 2 years. It's not really such a new device, new technology. It doesn't really offer that much new other than the new name and the fact that you have a Lumi version now with the front light, which, yeah, granted gives you front light, but it worsens some other things such as image quality, distance from surface to screen distance, writing immersion and experience and things like that. And you also have the addition of the active pen, which granted for an active pen it works well, but it doesn't really work as great in all of the aspects as the EMR pen. Primarily, it's very, very uncomfortable with the hard metal, and the hand becomes very, very tired after a while. So I think it really depends what your use case scenario is. If your primary use will be for reading, then I guess Max Go 10.3 Gen 2 Lumi makes way more sense, simply because it has a front light, right? There's the very simple addition, because that's genuinely useful for reader type of situations. However, if you're talking about writing and stuff, well, it's Manta for me all the way, simply because of the tools, because of the pen, because of the writing feel, because of the writing speed, because of everything, like all over the place. And personally, I would choose Manta for a reader as well, because it doesn't have a front light. I don't like front lights. I don't like something glowing at me at all and screwing up my eyes. I like the environmental lighting my surfaces that I'm interacting with. But that's a subjective kind of thing. If you want just like a reader and front light is your kind of a driver thing, well then obviously Go 10.3 Gen 2 Lumi is the way to go. But for writing and other stuff, Manta all the way, as far as I'm concerned. All right, that's it for this edition of Q&A. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye.